Hey Gemini, happy birthday. Welcome to the month of June 2020. I'm pulling from my new deck that I got, the Modern Witch Tarot. I'm pretty excited about this deck, even if it is kind of a basic bitch deck. I don't care. So let's see what comes up for you. Nice. Beautiful. We got the High Priestess. We got the Two of Wands. Got the Ten of Wands in reverse. I'm loving this already for you. This is great. We got the Knight of Pentacles in reverse and the Seven of Wands in reverse. Oh my god, this is such a nice month. I feel like this month, your birthday season is also the North Node just went into your sign. So now the focus is going to be all on you and everything you're doing. It was in Cancer in my sign, and it was a little bit of a doozy, I have to say. So I don't know how it'll play out for you, but guess I'm just throwing that into the mix. That kind of your destiny and like all of that is coming into play right now. Four of Swords in reverse, the Hermit. Wow. Anything else? Okay. Well, Nine of Cups reverse, Nine of Wands. Ace of Cups reverse, Death. Wow. And Ace of Swords. Wow, there's a lot. Okay. Well, I feel like the overall energy I'm picking up for you is that this is simultaneously a month of release, clarity, insights, but also kind of maybe some regret thrown in there, or some hesitation, especially around love. I feel like, yeah, so I want to start with, like, these wands, right? It's sort of interesting. It's like this tugging back and forth, I feel like, going on for you, where you're in between that sense of relief and release and kind of feeling a little bit lighter at the same time that there's a little bit of heaviness and a little bit of maybe regret or uncertainty or hesitation. So I'll dive into that a little bit more. And I hope you can't hear that construction noise, but if you can, whatever. Deal with it. Yeah, actually, dude, this month is so interesting for you the more I'm like sitting with this energy that came up for you, because you're in between such extreme polarities. And you're the sign of the twins, and I've been thinking about Gemini a lot because Venus has just gone into Gemini, and it's going to go retrograde through Gemini, and I have Venus and Mercury in Gemini. So, like here, Ten of Wands and Seven of Wands. Ten of Wands in reverse, these are both reversed. Ten of Wands in reverse is kind of like you've been carrying on so much shit, like putting the weight of the world on your shoulders, and now you're kind of like letting it go and releasing it. Seven of Wands is like a trailblazer card, but it's also feeling like you have to go at it alone and feeling like everyone's kind of like either got it out for you or just not supporting you. Because, like, look at this girl, right? She's confident and she's like got her shit together, but she's also like, okay, like I gotta like defend what's mine. I gotta like stand up for what I believe in. So, but with it in reverse, I feel like maybe you're feeling a little more relaxed with both of these cards, just kind of like, okay, like, whatever, like, fight or conflict has been going on, or whatever, like, tasks you've been, kind of like you've been wrapping it up, or you're kind of just letting go of some conflict, or you're letting go of some kind of, like, need to be the hero, perhaps. So this could be, I mean, something that comes to mind is like politics, right? It's like sometimes we can kind of get on a crusade of like, this is what I believe in. These are the right ways to do things. But carrying that can also be a burden, right? Like kind of the I know what's best for everyone can be a burden, especially when people aren't listening. So with this, I feel like you're just letting go of some of that, like, need to try to convince or sway people, or to be in charge, or to set things right. There's kind of, like, almost, relenting in a way, but as part of that, because also we got the High Priestess, and I think that the High Priestess is a really powerful energy that I would absolutely call on this month. Because, like, something I'm thinking about the High Priestess is, right, she's kind of, like, got her wisdom because she's able to balance and be in the middle and the paradox of these two extremes, right? The darkness and the light. And in, like, I guess I've just learned recently that, like, in the traditional tarot, what she's holding on to is the Torah, right? Which is, like, all of this, like, old ancient wisdom. And here she has a laptop, which I really like because I feel like the laptop is, like, I mean, we can go on all these rabbit holes on the internet to, like, find kind of esoteric truths. So it's like, this woman is spending her time on the internet, really, kind of getting some, I think, ancient wisdom that is helping to guide this month for her. Also, her crown, it's like Maiden Mother Crone, little symbolism there. So I feel like there's just sort of with the High Priestess, there is deep inherent truths that you are able to access maybe through the internet or whatever, but, like, I think this kind of, like, larger conversation around the nature of reality, or, like, being in between these two extremes and kind of holding all the paradox as truth, right? Being able to don't they say that, like, that's a sign of an intelligent person, is someone who can, like, hold two disparate beliefs at the same time and, like, make space for both of them. So it's, like, kind of, to me, part of what you're dealing with this month is really going deeper into understanding the nature of, like, the way the world is, the way humans are, the way the mind works, the way the subconscious works with the conscious mind, the way ancient practices tie into our present day lifestyles. And all of that comes up, again, because we were talking about you maybe letting go of the need to control, because really maybe what you're in right now is a state of observation. I'm drawn to this other girl who has a laptop, the Hermit, and I'm actually really intrigued by this Four of Swords and Hermit combo, because the Four of Swords is a card of meditation, a card of rest, a card of, like, kind of, like, and also in this card specifically, I kind of, like, get, like, this girl, like, has a hangover or something, right? So, like, part of, like, her resting is, like, recovering from, like, maybe, like, going too crazy. And that's what we've been in. I mean, that's really kind of what quarantine has been for all of us, is, like, our old lifestyle wasn't sustainable, and we were in these old patterns and habits and kind of running this old programming, and we really had to stop and pause and, like, look at all of that. And I mean, look at all that makes me think of, like, the High Priestess too, right? Like, what is really true? What is really essential? What really is the way the world works? What's the best way I can navigate my own energy and my own approach to my life? So for Swords in Reverse, it's like you're coming out of that, like, self-reflection period maybe, but I also don't think you're jumping out into the world right away either. Like, I don't think you're done with your solitude. You may be done with, like, the recovery part of it, but I think that now you might be putting in a little more energy into, like, your self-development. Again, a lot of this feels like kind of self-development, reapproaching and rethinking the way you view and look at the world. Because we got the Nine of Wands too, and the Nine of Wands is a card of, like, having some more work to do and having a little more to go. And so I don't think you're, like, rushing to get back to anything, but I also think that maybe you're building more of, like, kind of what you want to see next. Because we got the Two of Wands, and I think this is you, all of this energy right here is you kind of, like, especially, I mean, one of the reasons I like this deck is because of all the, like, modern imagery. So it's, like, kind of with, like, all these laptops and, like, with this phone, it's kind of, and, like, the Two of Wands is, like, you know, I, like, for me, right now, I'm imagining this girl is still in quarantine, but she's going outside, looking out on her balcony, and, like, seeing the world, kind of from afar and kind of taking it all in, noticing how beautiful it is, and then thinking like, okay, what's next for me? Or what could be next? Again, now that I've done all that self-reflection, and now that I'm kind of like exiting my recovery period, and now that I'm kind of letting go of some of the burden and some of the like ways I felt alienated in the past, how can I start building some new life for myself? Especially knowing, maybe having a deeper sense of like the way reality works with the High Priestess. So, and then we also have, I mean, Ace of Swords and High Priestess, so I feel like, oh, and also Death. I mean, I should talk about Death. Because with Death, I mean, I think Death is the ultimate clarifier. I mean, if anything brings Ace of Swords energy, I think it's Death. Because Death really puts everything in a stark contrast, right? Where we're like, okay, it helps us not take things for granted. And it helps us, like, kind of cherish the moment and be present. And it helps us, kind of also, again, like what I was talking about with, like, those burdens and stuff. And that feeling of, like, needing to be on your own. I think it's like letting go of that kind of savior complex almost, because again with High Priestess, it's like you're seeing how you're like a piece of the puzzle, how your life is kind of just a cog in some grander cosmic scheme. And so I think with all of this energy, you're really kind of maybe getting a sense of like the ways I was approaching my life before was a little bit superfluous, perhaps, and it was also maybe not really totally authentic. And now that I've seen all, like, I'm not saying you're dying or anyone around you is dying, but I definitely think that there is a sense of, like, an old past self has left the building. And also, with you being Gemini and the sign of the twins and the sign of, like, maybe polarization, these two disparate selves, this kind of like back and forth, like mind chatter of like the angel and devil on your shoulder. I think, again, with the High Priestess, there's a lot more harmony within yourself, a lot more clarity. And I think that's what Death has brought, is kind of maybe inability to just make the most of your time and then make the most of your energy, and letting go of some of those old patterns that weren't serving you anymore. And that's kind of what I feel with this, is that there's just, in June, did I say May before? If I did, I'm sorry. I don't know what time it is anymore. Time is an illusion. But, in this month of June, especially your birthday season, I think the Death energy feels almost more like a rebirth to me, especially with like this Ace of Swords and the High Priestess and this Two of Wands, looking at new vistas that you can go in. I think you're kind of getting ready to be reborn. I mean, also with the Hermit, that makes me feel like you're staying in your cocoon a little bit longer, because you know that the next step is like this. The Death is really more of a transformation. It's this metamorphosis. A metamorphosis based on clarity of a truer sense of yourself, what you want, what meaningful life is going to be for you. And part of that conversation is absolutely love. We got these two knights and this Ace of Cups. And I kind of feel like there is someone maybe trying to kind of like come into your orbit. A potential new beginning for love, but you're, I think, resistant to it, or not totally. I think with the Knight of Pentacles, this could, I mean, I know you're an air sign, but I'm reading it as you, only because Pentacles are about the material world, and it's about, like, I think that this guy moves slow, but also I think that you, maybe with all of this deep inner work that's going on, don't really feel like a sense of stability or groundedness, or kind of like I think that even though you're an air sign, that you're sort of wanting to integrate all of this self work in what I was talking about, that polarization, kind of like the blending of those, that angel and devil voice into like your one coherent whole. I think that this is work that's taking time, and that is like a whole process. Because also, I mean, what I'm interested in this card is like this, right? The sun and like these two towers. It's kind of like a gateway, right? Like you're going, it's almost like that's like heaven or something. So it's like you're almost like being escorted from your old life that has been decaying and dying and falling apart anyway into this new territory. And so when I get this guy, I'm kind of thinking, when like love offers are on the table, you're like, oh my god, I have so much shit I'm dealing with right now. Like the last thing I can possibly do right now is like add another emotional element into my life, because I think there is, again, something that wants to come in. This one strikes me as another person who's like this girl is like, hey, you want to hang out with me? And you're like, I can't even like begin to entertain that possibility given all the shit going on. Like, I'm already so vulnerable. I'm already so like processing who I am and who I'm becoming, and like grieving maybe what no longer exists, that this is not feeling like the right timing for me. Like all of this feels like kind of just, this isn't the time to open up and be like vulnerable for you, because you're just sort of processing. Like a lot of this is processing a new identity, kind of where you're going, these, and like also I'm drawn between this and the Two of Wands too, right? Like you're going through this like gateway to this new identity that is like born of the death of the old self, even if metaphorically. And I think that's why this Hermit has shown up for us too, right? Because the Hermit is like, even though you're not necessarily recovering or self-reflecting, you're still kind of working on the new identity and like the who this is, and you're still learning a lot about the nature of reality and the way the world works. It's bringing in all this clarity too, alongside death. And again, this does feel like an integration of polarized parts of yourself with, you know, kind of living in this gray space, or kind of being able to hold the paradoxes in the world and kind of making sense of those paradoxes. So yeah, with this Nine of Wands, again, it's like this, there's still more work happening in your quarantine, even if you can technically go out into the world. I don't think there's a rush for it, because I think that what you're doing is really kind of getting to know the new you, and you developing a relationship with yourself is absolutely crucial to being able to eventually open up yourself to these new relationships. Because when you're grounded within yourself, which you don't seem to be right now, but you will be at some point, right? Because the Knight of Pentacles still means that this energy is available to you, and it's kind of what you're working toward, and what you're working on is like becoming grounded in your new sense of self, kind of making sense of all. And like some people in the spiritual community kind of like to say that you're getting downloads. So it's like if you just downloaded all this shit on your computer, i.e. or if you downloaded all this shit in your brain, well, when you got new software, you have to like kind of learn how to use the new software and like figure out, like get the hang of it. You're just getting the hang of things about who you are and how to be this new self that is a little more enlightened. So once you find that grounding, then it'll be easier to kind of be vulnerable and have healthy new relationships. So this doesn't seem like it's not there for you, but maybe just now is not the time, and it will come in when it is the time. So that's your reading, Gemini. I hope this resonates. Let me know in the comments below. If you want a personal reading, check out thetarotcollective.com. You can get a reading from either me, Annabelle, or Emily. And yeah, that's it. So I love you, and I'll see you in July. Bye.